Dr. Bhakti, sorry, Dr. Bhakti, but you would say, they say in absolute terms only 12 or 13 people have died. You and I might say that there were more, but they would say this is providing 95% effectiveness. Why is that wrong? Why are they wrong to say, or first of all, how can they say that their vaccine is 95% effective in the case of Moderna or Pfizer, whichever one claimed that? Is that even a possible thing to say? I mean, isn't the virus 99.97% survivable for most people? How can they tell that the vaccine is 95% effective against preventing long-term illness or death?
Of course it's nonsense. Of course they couldn't have shown this because there weren't enough deaths to show. They would have had to vaccinate the whole world to show that maybe they saved so and so many lives. Now, I think I said this before. During the whole first wave of the pandemic, 52 people under 60 died because of or with the virus. 52 people. Now, to show that a vaccine was 95% efficient, you would have to have had a second group who had been vaccinated and shown that less than 52, far less than 52, less than one person had died. And of course, no trial could ever have shown that, and there is no trial. What they showed, or what they purported to show, because that also was not true, by the way, was that in the case of the Pfizer, I know the numbers there, they had 20,000 people who were not vaccinated and 20,000 who were vaccinated. And then they counted the numbers of COVID-19 cases in the one group and in the other group. And they came up with numbers like 150 in the unvaccinated group got COVID-19 and only 10 in the vaccinated case group got COVID-19, so the vaccine was 90% or 95% efficient. I mean, it's so ridiculous.
Why is that ridiculous? Why?
Because how did they define COVID-19? Was it death? Of course it wasn't death. It was cough, mild symptoms like cough, sneeze, and a positive PCR test that is lying all the time anyway. I mean, you don't go around saying how many people got a cold in one group, and so this vaccine has protected 150 people. When I read this, I stopped reading because I knew that all this was bullshit. Excuse me, I say, don't go into, if you want to start wallowing around in shit, it's not good. What they said was, I think in the biotech case, it was 10 severe cases in the control group and 1 severe case in the vaccinated group. But so, my God, you vaccinate 20,000 people to save 9 people from severe, God knows what severe meant. They were not on the ICU. They were not on ICU. They were not vitally endangered. And it was also because the test was positive, which was probably wrong anyway. So,
You made a great, Dr. Bhakti, you made a great analogy in an interview I saw. You talked about tetanus vaccine. So tell us, like, when someone gets tetanus, what happens?
You die. You die. Okay, in Thailand, 100 people get tetanus, 100 are going to die. In America, because your system is so good, if your doctors are still doing their job, by the way, which they're not anymore, you could save half the people's lives, or maybe even 70%, if your doctors are still working and thinking and using instruments and training.
So what does that tell us about the tetanus vaccine? So in other words, with tetanus, which untreated has a 100% or near 100% death rate, when we apply the tetanus vaccine, which people can talk about the safety issues in its manufacture, but in principle, it works. Is that not correct?
Yes. That's why the tetanus vaccination is good. And that's why I've always taught my students, that they should get vaccinated against tetanus, and they should get revaccinated after 10 or 20 years. It doesn't, the side effects are really so small, the risks are so small, and the benefit is so huge that there can be no question about it.
So contrast that with, in other words, you can protect 10 out of 10 people with a tetanus vaccine, and you can tell that it's working because if they're exposed to tetanus, they don't die.
Right.
Whereas here, they might not have died in any way, right?
Yeah, right. They wouldn't have died, but you go around killing them now with the vaccine, one, and secondly, maiming others for life. Because, even in the vaccination trials, it turned out that several hundred people who got vaccinated got such severe side effects that they had to be treated in the hospital. Okay? So, on the one hand, you might have prevented, I don't believe this anyway, 9 severe cases. You prevented 140 mild cases, but in return, you got 100 or 200 side effects that were so severe that they had to be taken care of in the hospital. I heard that some had to be taken to the ICU. I don't have any data, so I'm just saying that's what I heard, but I can believe it. And I don't want to know whether there have been even worse effects that people are not talking about. Excuse me, but this bleeding, profuse bleeding, has been seen in individuals who have gotten the Moderna vaccine, right? They have bleeding to the skin. This jerking over the whole body, which also can be the consequence of thrombus formation in the brain, has been reported from America, from people getting that vaccine, correct? Yes?
Yes.
And this jerking, which is horrible, these people will probably never be normal again, There was a case 3 days ago in Germany. Just 3 days ago. 29-year-old mother, 3 children, who's now it's living hell for these people. So let's not fight, guys. Let's sit down and think and do something about this.
Let me ask you, Dr. Bhakdi, when you